The broken promise Marcus Chen floated through the maintenance tunnel of Haven's Rest, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor with each careful step. The deep space mining station hummed around him, a symphony of life support systems, an industrial machinery that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat over the past 3 years. At 26, Marcus was the youngest chief engineer the station had ever seen, though most visitors wouldn't guess it from his quiet demeanor and thoughtful approach to problems. The comm system crackled to life above his head. "Marcus, we've got an incoming priority signal," came the voice of Commander Sarah Rodriguez from the bridge. "Looks like we're about to have company." Marcus pulled himself to the nearest comm panel. "What kind of company, Commander?" "The expensive, kind Vorthok diplomatic vessel requesting emergency docking. They're reporting critical engine failure." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. The Vorthoks were one of the most advanced civilizations in this sector of the galaxy, their technology centuries ahead of human engineering. He'd studied their propulsion systems in academy textbooks, but had never seen one in person. ETA 40 minutes. Think you can handle alien tech? Only one way to find out, Marcus replied, already heading toward the main docking bay. The Vorthok vessel, Stellar Crown, was a thing of beauty when it finally limped into Haven's Rest docking bay. Its hull gleamed like liquid silver, seamlessly curved and without a single visible joint or weld mark. The ship was easily 3 times larger than anything the mining station usually serviced, and Marcus could see scorch marks along its port side where something had gone very wrong. Captain XI emerged from the airlock with the bearing of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. Standing nearly 8 feet tall on 4 powerful legs, the Vorthak's blue-gray skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns that Marcus knew indicated mood and social status. 6 arms moved in complex gestures as Zexhai spoke in the melodic Vorthak language, while his universal translator rendered his words in clipped, arrogant tones. "I am Captain Zexhai of the Stellar Crown, bearer of the 3rd Circle of Excellence, graduate of the Imperial Engineering Academy of Vorth Prime." His 4 eyes, arranged in pairs on either side of his elongated skull, swept dismissively over the human facilities. "I require immediate repairs to my vessel's quantum displacement engine. How quickly can you summon competent engineers, Commander?" Rodriguez stepped forward, her gray hair pulled back in a military bun and her expression carefully neutral. "Captain, I'm Sarah Rodriguez, commanding officer of this station. This is Marcus Chen, our chief engineer. He'll be handling your repairs." Zexhai's bioluminescent patches flashed orange, which Marcus recognized as the Vorthok equivalent of laughter. "This... child. Commander, I appreciate your species' attempts at humor, but my vessel contains technology that your people won't develop for another 1,000 years. Surely you have someone with actual qualifications." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks, but kept his voice steady. "Captain, I've studied Vorthok engineering principles extensively. If you could show me to your engine room, I can begin diagnostics immediately." "Studied." Zexhai's patterns shifted to a condescending purple. "You have studied our technology, the way a primitive might study the stars, young human. Observation without comprehension. Very well, I shall demonstrate the futility of your efforts, so we can proceed to summon actual engineers from the nearest Vorthok facility." The journey through the Stellar Crown's corridors was like walking through a living organism. The walls pulsed with a soft internal light, and Marcus could swear he felt the ship's heartbeat through the deck plates. Everything was organic curves and flowing lines, So unlike the angular efficiency of human engineering, the engine room took Marcus's breath away. The quantum displacement drive hung suspended in the center of the chamber like a crystalline heart, surrounded by conduits that pulsed with energy in colors that had no human names. Subsidiary systems branched out in fractal patterns, creating a technological forest that seemed to grow rather than having been built. "Beautiful," Marcus whispered, pulling out his scanner and beginning to take readings. "Indeed it is," HFY said proudly. "This drive can fold space-time itself, allowing instantaneous travel across vast distances. The quantum matrices maintain perfect harmonic resonance with the fundamental frequencies of reality itself." Marcus studied his readings, frowning. "Captain, when did you first notice the malfunction?" 3 days ago, shortly after departing Kepler station. The displacement efficiency began degrading, and now we cannot achieve proper quantum lock." HFY gestured to a series of displays that showed wavering energy patterns. "As you can see, the harmonic resonance is completely disrupted." Marcus moved closer to the drive core, his scanner picking up something unusual. "Captain, have you checked your quantum stabilizers recently?" "Of course," HFY snapped. "I am not a novice human. Every system has been analyzed by our onboard computers." "Your onboard computers," Marcus said slowly. "Would they detect sabotage?" The Vorthok captain's bioluminescent patches flashed bright red, indicating anger. "Sabotage? Impossible. My crew has been with me for over a decade. They are all loyal Vorthok citizens with impeccable records." Marcus continued his scans, moving methodically around the engine room. What he found made his blood run cold. "Captain, look at this." He held up his scanner, showing energy signatures that shouldn't exist. "These readings indicate that someone introduced a quantum destabilizer into your fuel matrix. The breakdown pattern is too precise to be accidental." HFY examined the readings, his 4 eyes widening. This cannot be. Who would dare to sabotage a Vorthok diplomatic vessel?" Before Marcus could answer, alarms began blaring throughout. The ship, the organic walls flashed from their normal soft blue to an urgent red, and an automated voice spoke in rapid VORTHAK. "Asterisk, what's it saying?" Marcus asked. HFY's patterns had shifted to the pale white of fear. "Long-range sensors have detected an approaching fleet. Zarian Empire warships, 12 vessels, heavily armed." He paused, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They will be within attack range in 6 hours. Marcus felt the pieces clicking together in his mind. "Captain, the Zarians are enemies of your people, correct?" "Our most bitter enemies," HFY confirmed. "They have been seeking to expand into Vorthok space for decades, but our superior technology has always kept them at bay. And if a Vorthok diplomatic vessel were to be found stranded and defenseless in this sector, it would provide them with the perfect opportunity to capture advanced technology and study our weaknesses." HFY finished, his patterns now cycling through various shades of distress. "But my crew, I have known them for years." Marcus was already moving toward the engine core. "Captain, we need to focus on getting your ship operational. Arguments about loyalty can wait until after we're all not dead. You still believe you can repair Vorthok technology?" Despite the circumstances, condescension crept back into HFY's voice. "Human, even if you could comprehend our engineering, the quantum destabilizer has corrupted the fundamental matrix equations. It would take our finest engineers weeks to recalculate the proper harmonics." Marcus was studying the drive core intently, his mind racing through possibilities. What if we don't recalculate them? What if we bypass the corrupted sections entirely? Impossible. The quantum matrices must maintain perfect harmonic resonance, or the entire system will collapse catastrophically. Not necessarily. Marcus pulled out his toolkit and began removing access panels. In human engineering, when we can't fix something, we route around it. Your people think in terms of perfection, but sometimes good enough is better than perfect. Zexai watched in horror as Marcus began disconnecting crystalline conduits. Stop. You will destroy my ship. Captain, in 5 hours, the Xerians are going to destroy your ship anyway. Let me try something different. Marcus worked with increasing urgency, his hands moving with the confidence born of years spent solving impossible problems. He began rerouting power through secondary systems, creating bypass circuits that shouldn't work according to Vorthok engineering principles, but followed the improvisational logic that humans had developed out of necessity. This is madness, Zexai muttered, but he made no move to stop Marcus. You are treating quantum mechanics like plumbing. Sometimes that's exactly what it is, Marcus replied, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked. Complex systems break down into simple problems if you look at them the right way. Hours passed in tense concentration. Marcus's unconventional approach began to show results as the drive core's chaotic energy patterns slowly stabilized. Instead of the perfect harmonic resonance the Vorthok systems demanded, Marcus created a controlled instability that achieved the same effect through entirely different means. Impossible, Zexai breathed as his instruments showed the quantum lock beginning to form. The resonance patterns are completely wrong, yet somehow they are working. Sometimes wrong is right, Marcus said, making final adjustments. Your people are brilliant engineers, Captain, but you think inside very elegant boxes. Humans learned to think outside boxes because we never had elegant ones to begin with. Asterisk. As the drive powered up, both humans and Vorthok felt the familiar sensation of space-time beginning to bend around them. But before they could engage the displacement drive, new alarms sounded throughout the ship. Commander Rodriguez's voice crackled over the CUM system. Marcus Zexai, we've got bigger problems. The Xerian fleet has dropped out of hyperspace early. They're jamming our communications and charging weapons. We've got maybe 30 minutes before they're in firing range. Marcus looked at Zexai, seeing his own grim realization reflected in the alien captain's eyes. The drive repairs had taken too long. They were trapped. Captain, Marcus said quietly, there's something else. Your saboteur. They're still on this ship, aren't they? Someone who could signal the Xerians about our repair progress. Someone who could have told them exactly when to drop out of hyperspace for maximum effect. Zexai's patterns cycled through colors Marcus had never seen before. The crew member who reported our departure from Kepler Station, he whispered. Navigator Kesra. She joined us only recently, came with the highest recommendations that were probably forged, Marcus finished. Captain, your ship is operational now, but Haven's Rest doesn't have the firepower to stand against a Xerian fleet. We need to work together if any of us are going to survive this. Through the viewing ports, they could see the dark shapes of Xerian warships moving against the stars like predators closing in for the kill. The real test was about to begin. Asterisk, when humans rise the bridge of the Stellar. Crown buzzed with desperate activity as Vorthok crew members worked alongside humans from Haven's Rest. Marcus had never imagined he would find himself in the command center of an alien warship, But desperate circumstances had a way of breaking down barriers that diplomacy could not. 12 Zarian heavy cruisers, all armed with plasma artillery and quantum torpedoes, reported Lieutenant Torres from Havens. Rest. Our mining station's defenses won't last 5 minutes against that kind of firepower. Captain Zexai stood at the center of the bridge, his bioluminescent patterns cycling through deep blues and purples that Marcus now recognized as the Vorthok equivalent of intense concentration. The Stellar Crown's weapons systems are fully operational, but a single diplomatic vessel cannot stand against 12 warships, even with our technological advantages. Commander Rodriguez studied the tactical display with the calm focus that had made her legendary among human space forces. What if we don't fight them ship to ship? Marcus, is there any way to use the station's industrial equipment as weapons? Marcus was already running calculations in his head. The mining lasers could be reconfigured for combat use, but they're not designed for ship-to-ship combat. We'd need to hold the Zirians in a specific position long enough to target them effectively. Impossible, interjected Navigator Kethrel, who stood under guard near the rear of the bridge. Her exposure as a Zarian spy had been confirmed when security teams found encrypted communication equipment hidden in her quarters. Zarian tactical doctrine calls for constant movement and overwhelming firepower. They will not remain stationary long enough for your primitive weapons to lock on. She's right about their tactics, Zexai admitted reluctantly. Zarian commanders are trained to avoid prolonged engagements. They prefer to destroy their targets quickly and withdraw before reinforcements can arrive. Marcus studied the tactical display, his mind working through possibilities that would have seemed impossible just hours earlier. What if we make them think they need to stay and fight? Give them a target too valuable to abandon, such as Rodriguez asked. The Stellar Crown itself, Marcus said quietly. If we can make them believe they have a chance to capture intact Vorthok technology, they'll commit to a prolonged battle rather than risk destroying it with long-range bombardment. Zexai's patterns flashed bright red. You propose to use my ship as bait, to risk Vorthok technology falling into Zarian hands. Captain, Marcus said firmly, in 20 minutes, your technology is going to fall into Zarian hands anyway, along with all of our lives, unless we try something they won't expect. The debate was interrupted by proximity alarms as the Zarian fleet moved into attack formation. Through the viewports, the enemy ships were visible as dark crescents against the starfield, their hulls bristling with weapon ports that gleamed like malevolent eyes. Incoming transmission from the Zarian fleet commander, reported the communications officer. Put it through, Rodriguez ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the angular features of a Zarian admiral. The reptilian alien's scales were a deep green-black, and his eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. When he spoke, his words came out in harsh clicks and hisses that the universal translator rendered in cold, precise tones. I am Admiral Scrath of the Zarian Empire. To the humans of the mining station and the crew of the Vorthok vessel, you will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of all present. The Vorthok ship will be seized as a prize of war. Zexai stepped forward, his patterns shifting to the gold and silver of formal diplomatic communication. Admiral, I am Captain Zexai of the diplomatic corps of the Vorthok Republic. This vessel operates under diplomatic immunity according to the Galactic Accords. Any attack upon us would constitute an act of war. Asterisk Admiral S.S. Krath, membrane-covered eyes blinked slowly. A gesture Marcus recognized as the Zarian equivalent of laughter. Diplomatic immunity requires the presence of witnesses, Captain. There are no other vessels in this system, and the mining station's communications array has been jammed. Who will report this unfortunate accident to your republic, you see?" whispered Kethril, though her voice carried clearly in the tense silence. "Zerian planning is always thorough. Resistance is futile." Marcus caught Commander Rodriguez's eye and saw understanding pass between them. Years of working together had taught them to communicate without words, and both realized that conventional tactics would only delay the inevitable. "Admiral Rodriguez," said, stepping into view of the communication screen, "we need time to prepare our surrender. Surely the great Zerian Empire can grant us 1 hour to evacuate non-essential personnel." Scrath's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. "You may have 30 minutes, human commander. Use them wisely." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Zexai turned to Rodriguez, his patterns cycling through confused purples. "Commander, surely you do not intend to actually surrender?" "Not exactly," Rodriguez replied. "Marcus, how long do you need for what I have in mind?" 25 minutes, if everything goes perfectly," Marcus answered. "And if it doesn't go perfectly?" Marcus managed a grim smile. "Then we'll find out if humans are as stubborn as the rest of the galaxy thinks we are." The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of frantic activity. Marcus worked with teams of both human and Vorthok engineers, jury-rigging connections between the Stellar Crown's quantum displacement drive and Haven's Rest's industrial power grid. What he was attempting had never been tried before and violated several fundamental principles of both human and Vorthok engineering. "This is insane," muttered Chief Engineer Patel from Haven's Rest as she watched Marcus connect quantum conduits to mining laser power couplings. "You're trying to use a space-folding drive to create a gravitational lens. The energy requirements alone will be barely within our combined power output," Marcus finished. "Chief, I need you to modify the mining lasers for focused beam output. We're only going to get one shot at this." Meanwhile, on the Stellar Crown's bridge, Zexai found himself working alongside humans in ways that challenged everything he thought he knew about their species. Lieutenant Torres had quickly mastered the Vorthok targeting systems, while Communications Officer Kim had figured out how to integrate human and Vorthok sensor networks in ways that surprised even the ship's original crew. "Remarkable," Zexai murmured to Rodriguez. "Your people adapt so quickly. In mere hours, they have learned systems that take our young officers months to master." "Humans are good at improvising," Rodriguez replied. "We've had to be. When you don't have the luxury of perfect technology, you learn to make do with whatever works." With 5 minutes remaining before the Zerian deadline, Marcus made his way back to the bridge, his hair damp with sweat and his uniform stained with both human lubricants and Vorthok biofluids from the integrated systems. "Status report," Rodriguez requested. "*. "The gravitational lens is as ready as it's going to be," Marcus reported. "But Commander, I need to be honest about our chances. We're attempting to use industrial mining equipment as precision weapons, coordinated through jury-rigged connections to alien technology. If any single component fails, we all die anyway," Rodriguez finished. "Understood, Captain Zexai. Are your weapons ready?" "All quantum torpedo tubes, loaded and ready," the Vorthok captain confirmed. "Though I confess, I still do not entirely understand how this plan is supposed to work." Marcus moved to the tactical display. "The Zerians will approach expecting either surrender or conventional resistance. Instead, we're going to use the quantum displacement drive to create a localized gravitational field that will bend space around the station. When they move in close enough, we'll collapse the field suddenly, pulling their formation together into a tight cluster. At which point, Rodriguez continued, our modified mining lasers will have multiple targets in close proximity, making it much easier to achieve devastating hits. But the power requirements to maintain such a field, Zexai began. Will drain both our ships completely, Marcus admitted. Captain, after we trigger this, the Stellar Crown will be defenseless. If we don't eliminate the entire Zarian fleet in the first attack, then we die as warriors rather than as prey, Zexai said, his patterns shifting to the deep gold that Marcus had learned indicated fierce determination. In the past few hours, I have learned that humans possess something my people lack, the willingness to attempt the impossible when the alternative is unacceptable. The proximity alarms sounded again as the Zarian fleet began its final approach. 12 heavy cruisers moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with an ominous glow that painted the nearby asteroids in shades of deadly light. All stations, prepare for gravitational lens activation, Marcus announced over the comm system. This is going to feel very strange. The quantum displacement drive hummed to life, but instead of folding space to allow travel, Marcus's modifications turned it into something unprecedented. A controlled gravitational anomaly that began to warp space-time around Haven's Rest. The effect was invisible to the naked eye, but the Zarian fleet's sensors immediately detected the unusual readings. Admiral, Scrath is hailing us, reported the communications officer. On screen, Rodriguez ordered. The Zarian commander's expression showed both anger and confusion. What are you doing, humans? Our sensors detect massive gravitational distortions around your station. Just a malfunction in our mining equipment. Rodriguez replied with feigned embarrassment. Old human technology, you understand. Very unreliable. Admiral Scrath's eyes narrowed to glowing slits. Treachery. All ships accelerate to attack speed. Destroy them before they can complete whatever they are planning. The Zarian fleet surged forward, exactly as Marcus had hoped. As the enemy ships entered the gravitational field, their formation began to compress as space itself pulled them together. The Zarian pilots fought to maintain their positions, but their ships were designed for normal space combat, not for maneuvering within. A controlled gravitational anomaly. Now, Marcus shouted. The gravitational lens collapsed suddenly, creating a momentary but intense gravitational well that pulled the entire Zarian fleet into a cluster barely 3 kilometers across. In the same instant, Haven's Rest's modified mining lasers fired with the combined power of both human and Vorthok energy systems. The result was devastatingly effective. Coherent energy beams designed to cut through solid rock tore through Zarian hull plating like it was paper. 3 enemy cruisers exploded immediately, their reactor cores breached by the concentrated laser fire. 4 more ships suffered critical damage, their weapon systems destroyed, and their hulls venting atmosphere. But 5 Zarian vessels survived the attack, and they responded with fury. Quantum torpedoes and plasma artillery filled the space around Haven's Rest with deadly energy. The mining station's shields, never designed for combat, failed within seconds. Shield generators are offline, Torres reported. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. The gravitational lens drew too much power, Marcus said grimly. We don't have enough energy left for another shot. It was then that Captain Z surprised everyone on the bridge. Instead of retreating to preserve his ship and crew, the Vorthok captain stepped forward to the weapons console. "All quantum torpedo tubes, fire," he commanded. The Stellar Crown's weapons blazed to life, sending streams of exotic matter projectiles into the confused Zarian formation. Vorthok technology proved its superiority as each torpedo found its mark, punching through enemy shields and armor with devastating precision. But the return fire was equally intense. The diplomatic vessel shuddered under multiple impacts, and Marcus could hear the screaming of tortured metal as hull plates buckled under assault. "Captain," called out his tactical officer, "forward shields are failing. We cannot withstand much more of this." It was Lieutenant Torres who provided the solution, her voice cutting through the chaos with sudden inspiration. "Marcus, the mining charges in Storage Bay 7. If we could detonate them all at once." Marcus's eyes lit up with understanding. An improvised explosive device using the station's own mining charges. But we'd have to get close enough to the Zerians to make sure the blast radius includes their remaining ships. "That would be a suicide mission," Zexai observed. "Not necessarily," Rodriguez said quietly. "Captain, can your ship survive a point-blank explosion if we channel all remaining power to forward shields?" "Possibly," Zexai replied. "But the humans on Haven's Rest would not survive. The station is too damaged to maintain life support if we divert power to weapons." Marcus looked around the bridge, seeing the faces of both human and Vorthok crew members who had worked together despite years of mutual mistrust. An idea began to form, one that would require the ultimate expression of human stubbornness. What if we evacuate Haven's Rest and put everyone aboard the Stellar Crown? Marcus suggested. "Your ship is large enough, and we could jettison the mining station directly at the Zarian fleet. The explosion would take out the remaining ships, and we could use the quantum displacement drive to escape before the blast wave reaches us." "You would sacrifice your home to save lives?" Zexai asked, his patterns cycling through colors that Marcus couldn't identify. "It's not much of a home if we're all dead," Rodriguez replied pragmatically. The next 10 minutes were a testament to what humans and Vortex could accomplish when working together. The evacuation of Haven's Rest proceeded with mechanical precision, as crew members from both species coordinated the transfer of essential personnel and equipment. The Stellar Crown's diplomatic quarters were hastily converted into temporary living spaces, while the ship's medical bay prepared to treat wounded from both fleets. As the last evacuation shuttle docked with the Stellar Crown, Marcus remained on Haven's Rest to make final preparations. The mining charges had been connected to the station's main reactor, creating an explosive device powerful enough to vaporize anything within a 50-kilometer radius. "Marcus, get out of there." Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm system. "The Zerians are regrouping for another attack. Run." 2 more minutes, Marcus replied, his hands flying over the control panels. "I need to make sure the detonation sequence is properly synchronized." Through the station's damaged viewports, he could see the surviving Zarian ships maneuvering for a final assault. Their formation was precise, their movements coordinated, and their intent unmistakably lethal. These were professional soldiers, executing a battle plan that had been refined over decades of interstellar warfare. But they had never faced the particular kind of insanity that humans called desperate creativity. Marcus activated the automated systems that would pilot Haven's Rest on its final mission, then sprinted toward the last evacuation shuttle. Behind him, the mining station began to accelerate toward the Zarian fleet, its reactor building toward critical mass and its cargo hold full of enough explosives to crack a small moon. The shuttle bay doors of the Stellar Crown closed just as the first Zarian torpedoes struck. Haven's Rest, the mining station, absorbed the hits without slowing, its momentum carrying it directly into the heart of the enemy formation. All hands, brace for impact, Captain Zexai announced over the ship's internal communications. The explosion, when it came, was visible from 3 star systems away. Haven's Rest and the remaining Zarian vessels vanished in a sphere of incandescent plasma that briefly outshone the local sun. The shockwave that followed tested every system on the Stellar Crown, but Vorthok engineering and human modifications held together long enough for the quantum displacement drive to fold space and carry them to safety. In the aftermath, as the Stellar Crown hung in empty space, light years from the battle site, Captain Zexai found Marcus in the ship's observation lounge, staring out at the stars. "You sacrificed everything," the Vorthok captain said quietly, his patterns a subdued silver that Marcus recognized as respect. "Your home, your livelihood, your future." "Why?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Because that's what humans do, Captain. When something threatens the people we care about, we don't calculate odds or consider alternatives. We just do whatever it takes." Zexai settled beside him, his alien form somehow managing to convey the same exhaustion and relief that Marcus felt. "I owe you an apology, Marcus Chen. And more than that, I owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid." "No debt," Marcus replied. "Just maybe remember that being different doesn't mean being inferior. Humans might not have your technology or your training, but we have something else." "What is that?" Marcus smiled, thinking of the events of the past day, of humans and Vortex working side by side against impossible odds. "We have the stubborn refusal to give up, even when everyone tells us we should. And sometimes that's exactly what the universe needs." Through the viewport, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small drama that had just played out among them. But aboard the Stellar Crown, something had changed. The first seeds of a partnership between humans and Vorthax had been planted, watered with mutual respect and fertilized with shared sacrifice. It would grow into something that would reshape the galaxy, but that is a story for another day. Asterisk.